Yes, Honorable Pinard, you are recognized. You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I rise to present before this honorable House my full support for the 2024 Appropriations Act. But first, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the Honorable Minister of Finance, Dr. Irvin McIntyre, for his absolute wonderful budget presentation on Friday. And also, Mr. Speaker, before I proceed, please allow me to refer to my notes during my contribution.
Permission granted.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Speaker, I need to address one or two little matters from what I heard from the senator before I delve into my own presentation. Mr. Speaker, whilst the senator is preoccupied with how much a house costs per square foot and so on and so forth, I think he needs to just step back and appreciate the fact that these people have been given homes, free homes that they did not pay anything for. I would ask the senator to reflect and answer the question of how many houses did any administration that preceded this Dominica Labour Party give to even a single Dominican? How many houses did the Freedom Party give before in 15 years? How many houses did the UWP give to our people? Mr. Speaker, there is something to be said for gratitude, and the people of Dominica are showing their gratitude to the Dominica Labour Party, and this senator needs to also step in line and just say thank you to the Labour Party for these generous gifts that is given. The matter of the titles, those have been promised, those will come, and we are currently working on putting these things together, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the senator tried to speak about youth. I just think he should stay out of that. You know, I will go into the discussion with youth and explain to him all what this government has put in place from 2000 to now to support our youth, to help develop our youth. And I can assure him that the youth in Dominica have opportunities. We have taken advantage of these opportunities, okay? But we will get to that point, Mr. Speaker, when we get to that point. You will know which era I'm talking about, Senator. Now, Mr. Speaker, okay. I'd like to express my sincere thanks to this visionary government for continuing its strong support to developing and supporting small businesses in this country, as outlined by the total budget allocation of $6.5 million for the public sector investments in small business. Mr. Speaker, now more than ever, it is absolutely essential that we continue to focus on the development and growth of the small business sector. As we accelerate the transformation of our country into the economic powerhouse of the Caribbean. For those who are wondering what's the big deal with small business, I will say to them that small business is the ultimate big deal. And here is why. Small businesses account for a majority of jobs in Dominica and globally. Small businesses ensures a rich diversity of products and services available in this and every country. Small businesses account for a significant percentage of our GDP annually. However, globally, and Dominica is no exception, a majority of small businesses will fail by the fifth year, and that increases to approximately 70% by the 10th year, Mr. Speaker. And it is faced with these statistics that our Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, created the Small Business Support Unit in 2009. My only question is, why did it take so long? Before the Dominica Labour Party formed the government, we had 15 years of the Freedom Party. and that was being led by the great Dame Mary Eugenia Charles. And then that was followed by 4.5 years of the United Workers' Party led by Edison James. Yet the need to protect and promote such a valuable and indispensable segment of our economic structure was not realized until this Prime Minister took office. Mr. Speaker, my contribution tonight will outline the vision and the future for the small businesses in the dynamic Dominica that we are building. However, before I look forward, I wish to first take a look back to what the Small Business Support Unit, what the Small Business Support Unit has contributed over the years. Mr. Speaker, the environment that preceded the establishment of the unit was bleak. Small businesses and their owners were like nobody's children. You know, that's that Calypso, I am nobody's child, nobody don't love me. That was small businesses, Mr. Speaker. They were left to fend entirely for themselves on their own and had to face the harsh realities of an unforgiving environment where only the strongest could survive. The cold realities of this time, Mr. Speaker, was that small businesses were given no special consideration as a bloc. The public service did not have any particular strategy in place to encourage and support them. The financial sector as well did not seem to recognize the importance of small businesses as a whole. The entire system was primarily centered on catering to larger businesses that they thought would have low risk but big profits. Specifically, entrepreneurs and small businesses struggle to access necessary skills or training for both themselves and their staff. A business owner might be great at creating a product that he wishes to sell. A carpenter might be good at making chairs, but he might not be so great at financial management. He might not be so great at marketing and letting people know about his products and his work. He might not have any opportunities to showcase his work, and he would have been having a very terrible time getting any financial institution to lend to him because of all the reasons that we just outlined, especially the fact that he would not have had proper financial records. They also struggle to navigate the regulatory complexities and the red tape which hindered their ability to get established, to invest, and to expand in their businesses. Now, navigating the maze of the public service was a nightmare, and it tested even the most determined entrepreneurs. I know of people that simply gave up because of all the hurdles that came with trying to establish a business in Dominica before, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, these challenges that our small businesses face are not unique to Dominica. These are universal challenges. No one could have faulted the Prime Minister for thinking, well, that is how it is. Let's just wish them well and hope for the best. But this is not who the Prime Minister is, Mr. Speaker. This was not the Labour Party way. The Prime Minister understood and lives by the guiding principle of the Dominican Labour Party, which is simply all shall eat. This is a party that was built of the little man, by the little man, and for the little man. We would not stand by and just wish these little businesses well. We had to do something. We had to give them a fighting chance. We had to ensure their survival. As well, Mr. Speaker, beyond the benefit to that little man, the small business person trying so desperately to do something that will bring them a little income and give them a decent standard of living. The Prime Minister understood the cumulative impact of small businesses to the successful development of the country as a whole. Therefore, in 2009, he established the Small Business Support Unit. Now, the Small Business Support was established with the mandate to formalize and assist with the development of the MSMEs in Dominica, to assist with the issue of limited access to essential financing, to create an environment where persons within the sector are comfortable expressing their limitations and helping develop solutions and getting the required assistance, to develop an act and the relevant policies that would guide the sector, and to give technical and financial assistance where it was needed. Mr. Speaker, I think it is safe to say that if entrepreneurs were asked to identify the single most important factor limiting their ability to get established and to grow their businesses, they would say it is the challenges faced with accessing financing. So, Mr. Speaker, we will begin by presenting for the record the various measures that the Small Business Support Unit has implemented over the years to address this issue. The first one is grants. Mr. Speaker, it is with great pleasure that I can say that the Small Business Support Unit has given over $17 million worth of grants since it was established. And that is grants given directly through the Small Business Unit. Additionally, beyond the grants provided directly from the unit, the government has also provided and facilitated a number of grants to small businesses through other ministries, through NGOs and statutory bodies. Most recently, the Ministry of Agriculture provided support totaling $1.6 million to small businesses engaged in value-added processes. So, to support the massive investments that are already taking place in the agricultural sector, we have in mind the $11 million tissue culture lab. We have the $6.5 million that's going towards redoing and rebuilding the abattoir. We have in added technology. We know of the aquapuncture, the hydroponics. Then in agriculture, the hydroponics in Portsmouth. So these massive investments are taking place in agriculture. And so we're going beyond that and providing support to the small business so they can take the agricultural produce, these primary products, and add value to them, thereby creating more downstream linkages and creating more jobs in the process. Now, Mr. Speaker, the government only this month also provided 77 small businesses with grants totaling $938,000 to help digitalize their businesses. For example, Mr. Speaker, some of these businesses will purchase accounting systems that will help them set up their financial record keeping and management. Others will invest in marketing research. Others with inventory management capacity. Mr. Speaker, we recognize and appreciate that in the 21st century, it takes these kinds of investments to achieve and remain competitive or even relevant. You cannot easily approach a financial institution today without having proper financial records and expect them to lend to you. Regardless of how good your product might be, without being able to reach your customers and without proper packaging, you would have a hard time staying in business. So the digital grants will assist these small businesses build that capacity that is absolutely necessary for this day and for this age. Mr. Speaker, since the establishment of the Dominica Youth Business Trust in 2004 by this Dominica Labour Party government to provide support and additional opportunities for young persons that will enable them to start or grow and improve their businesses, the government has funneled millions of dollars to young entrepreneurs. And yes, Mr. Paris, that was done by this government targeting young entrepreneurs. But Mr. Speaker, the Dominica Youth Business Trust is just one of many means through which this government has sought to build and support our youth. The onus is and has always been on them to take advantage of the many opportunities that have been presented. But I will get back to the youth a bit later in my presentation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we should note that unless in extreme circumstances where the item being purchased is not available on island, grant monies are authorized to be used for purchases right here in Dominica. So what we are doing is enabling a multiplier effect with the grant monies that we are providing. So the grant monies will be used to buy from other small businesses and large businesses, and they in turn, that will improve their economic conditions. They will be able to give more jobs. They will be able to create more benefit, and the cycle will continue to expand and grow Mr. Business. So the impact of the grant monies is trickling down and throughout the entire economy, Mr. Speaker, beyond the small business that it was given. Now, Mr. Speaker, in our efforts to ensure adequate access to financing, which is the original problem, the government has also gone beyond providing grants to also making it possible for our small businesses to easily gain access to concessionary loans. Over the years, this Labour Party government has partnered with and placed millions of dollars at various financial institutions, including the Aid Bank, the National Bank of Dominica, the National Development Foundation of Dominica. in the last 10 years alone, the government has placed over $75 million at the aid bank to on-lend to small businesses at concessionary rates and terms. Notable among these were the 50-50 agreement. Now, under that program, businesses got 50% of the amount they needed as a loan, and 50% was given as a grant. So for every dollar you borrowed, you got a dollar free. The 1% loan facilities. Mr. Speaker, this means that the interest rate on those loans will be below the minimum savings interest rates deposited at banks and credit unions. That is extremely concessionary lending terms anywhere, Mr. Speaker. And we currently have a 3% loan at the aid bank, where $27.8 million was borrowed from the CDB and placed at the aid bank to lend to small businesses at the concessionary rate of 3%. And this loan is doing very well, Mr. Speaker. To date, we have provided 432 loans totaling $22.8 million to small businesses. $21 million have already been disbursed from that amount, Mr. Speaker. But however, that means that we also have $5 million left to be disbursed under that program. And so we are encouraging small businesses to go to the aid bank, speak to them about accessing funding under that facility, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, whilst we all love what the small business unit has done to enhance our access to financing, there is so much more to the unit than just that. At the small business unit, we have endeavored to create business opportunities for our small business. We assist with connecting suppliers to manufacturers and to their markets and others who add value. Now, we are creating linkages upstream and downstream in the value chain. In the past, we had done this through the trade shows, and we did that again just last Christmas in partnering with the Christmas Village at the Botanical Gardens. But in the last year, we also took it to a new level by assuming the lead in the organization of the Tea Village Creole festivities, which takes place during the Independence season. And this was done in collaboration with the Ministry of Tourism, Agriculture, Housing and Urban Development, Community Development, and Trade. Now, despite having to cut down last year's activities to 3 days because of inclement weather, by all accounts, last year's Tea Village was a resounding success. Mr. Speaker, we featured 71 small businesses, of which 25 were food court vendors, and there were 50 local entertainment acts, inclusive of 14 bands and artists. We had 9,100 paying patrons. That means that was just the adults, because the youth were able to enter for free in 2003. This is the number of buyers and suppliers, financiers, and peers that we expose our small businesses to in those 3 days in 2023. That, Mr. Speaker, is the prime example of how the small business unit creates commercial opportunities. It promotes our businesses and creates networking opportunities for our small businesses. This year, the small business unit will again assume the lead in the organization of the Tea Village Co-op in collaboration with our partner ministries. We pray that this edition will have no interruption and will therefore resume to its normal 4 days, where the benefits of our small businesses might be even greater than they were last year. In the past year, the unit has been involved in targeted trainings to small businesses across the length and breadth of Dominica, with a special focus on the functional areas of marketing, entrepreneurship, financial management, and customer service. As a result, we have had 98 small businesses that are now better equipped to manage their business more efficiently and more profitably. However, Mr. Speaker, we appreciate that the time has come to broaden our training opportunities towards more practical applications. The small business unit will therefore partner with existing institutions such as the Dominica Youth Business Trust, the Adult Education, to provide even more relevant training that will need to satisfy the dynamic Dominica that we are building. We recognize and we appreciate that we are now on the cusp of a new age in this country. The transformation of our economic landscape is in progress right now as we speak. And the small business unit will ensure that small businesses are prepared for this transformed future that we are building. We recognize that this new Dominica will only succeed if the private sector is ready and capable of meeting the high standards that is required for us to be globally competitive. Now, Mr. Speaker, I also want to assure the small business community that we have heard their concerns. Most recently at the budget preparation forums, and we have committed to assisting with the provision of the operating spaces in the more populous city and town. We appreciate the increase in commerce that comes from having your products on display and available in high foot traffic areas, and it is our hope that such a space may be acquired and made available in the coming months. Mr. Speaker, whilst much work has been done towards finalizing the small business policy, it remains a work in progress. However, we also wish to assure the community that we will take all the necessary steps to ensure that it is completed during this fiscal period. Now, over the coming weeks and moving forward, we will significantly increase the intensity of our hand-holding support to our small business community. Increasingly, our officers will be out in the field, visiting those businesses, checking in on their progress, their successes and their challenges, identifying their needs and means of providing better ongoing support to them. In general, Mr. Speaker, we are going to see a small business support unit take on a more hands-on approach. We are poised to do our part to support the systemic and paradigm shift that is taking place in this country, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, I now wish to discuss some of the most significant capital projects, especially those impacting the tourism sector that is currently taking place or are scheduled to begin over the next few months. And we, of course, will start with the international airport. Now, I know that many of my colleagues have already mentioned the airport, and I'm pretty sure that many more to come will discuss the airport. But such is the importance of this hugely transformational project that it is worth mentioning and celebrated by every member of this honorable house, and indeed every citizen of this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for a country such as ours, where our terrain is anything but flat, the construction of a 2,850 meters or 9,350 feet runway is nothing short of miraculous. And that, Mr. Speaker, is what is being built right now in Wesley as we speak. And for those who have doubted our Honorable Prime Minister and this government's resolve and ability to deliver, you are free to visit the site any day as you wish. As they say, let your eyes boil your peas, Mr. Speaker. All right? Mr. Speaker, based on today's numbers, the airport that we are building will have the fourth longest runway in the Caribbean. So the largest planes from the furthest cities will be able to come directly onto Dominica, Mr. Speaker. Now, what makes the airport so important that everyone has to speak about it all the time? And to that, I will also say that the airport is everything. The international airport is indeed a very, very big deal for this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know how some people say they're feeling like people do them mal, they're not moving. Like no matter what they do, they're not progressing. Or even as Tasha P said in a recent Calypso, she feeling like she's running on a treadmill, Like, it's like you put in all the work, but you're not reaping the just rewards and the benefits for your hard work. Well, this has been the story of Dominica and tourism, Mr. Speaker. We have worked so very hard as a country to establish and develop as the ultimate tourist destination. We have Carnival, we have TV Village, we have Creole Festival, we have Jazz and Creole, we have natural resources, we have great people with great smiles. Look at the Honorable Roberts right there, great smile. You understand? We have a low crime rate. We have beautiful landscape, beaches, seas, rivers. You name it, we have it in Dominica. And we have a very stable political climate. We have constructed 5-star hotels, and we are building more as we speak. And that is just to name a few, Mr. Speaker. Yet, despite all that, our visitor arrivals, both cruise and stayovers, are well below some very smaller islands who have a much less to offer than we do. And why is that, you might ask? The answer has remained unchanged for decades, and that is access. Getting to Dominica has improved significantly under this government. Let's not get away from that. We now have light night landing. Our runway has been extended, and so on. However, it still remains prohibitively difficult to get to Dominica from most international destinations. Currently, we only have direct international flights from Miami. Travelers are not fans of connecting flights, Mr. Speaker. It eats up their valuable time and it increases the risk that their luggage might not accompany them on the journey. So, regardless of how attractive we are, of how many accolades we receive on various travel publications, our numbers will remain stunted by the fact that it takes at least 2 connecting flights from most international destinations to get to Dominica. Mr. Speaker, the international airport will address this issue directly and forthwith. Needless to say, therefore, the issue of access challenges will soon be no more. It will be history that we will say to good riddance. With the improved access, Mr. Speaker, we will obviously expect there to be a significant increase in the number of visitors to the country. Our present target is 500,000 by the year 2030 stayover arrivals, stayover visitors. Now, I believe, Mr. Speaker, that we can, if we continue to build up the accompanying infrastructure, such as the additional top hotels, restaurants, do our nighttime entertainment and such, not the butt lifts that the Honorable Scary said Mr. Charles once, but good, clean nighttime entertainment, Mr. Speaker, and not to mention the completion of the cable car, the marina, the cruise village. Now I believe we can surpass the 500 target that we have. Now, so when we have met and possibly exceeded our visitors' targets, one might ask, well, what? And well, again, I will have to say, so what not? Because the increased number of visitors we are speaking of will touch every asset of our economy and our society. Visitors need rooms to sleep. Visitors need food to eat. Visitors need to be able to move around. Visitors want to enjoy our natural environment. This means that the number of hotel rooms, guest houses, beds and breakfasts, car rentals, we will need to increase all of those to meet the higher demand. This will mean that our food production on the farms and from the seas will have to be increased significantly to supply the increased demand for fresh foods from our visitors. This means that the number of taxi operators and tour guides will need to be increased to meet the higher need to move around and to travel across our beautiful island, to visit our beautiful sites. Mr. Speaker, this means that jobs will be created. This means that money will be coming into our pocket. This means economic security for ourselves and for our families, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, as these sectors expand and they bloom, they will in turn touch every other sector that might not be coming in direct contact with the visitors. There will be a greater demand for construction and for buildings and for the infrastructure. So the construction sector will thrive. There will be increased demand for tour guides and operators, hence an increase in the demand for motor vehicles. The banks and the credit unions that do not directly involve and consider themselves the tourism sector will obviously benefit because they have to give loans to build those buildings. They have to give loans to buy those cars and so on, Mr. Speaker. The supermarkets in your village will sell more because those farmers and those fishermen and so on that selling directly to the five-star hotels, they will go in your shop, they will come in your bar. So everybody, even if you're far away from the airport, you're going to benefit from the fact that more people on the island. Mr. Speaker, our farmers and our fisher folks' economic conditions will be improved. That means that the businesses they buy from will all do better, and the whole country as a result will do better. And I said farmers and fisherfolk because I kind of speaking to my community. Because we are farmers and fishermen, like most of us in the country. Now, Mr. Speaker, now I must say that, as we're speaking about that the government, I must say thank you to the government and for committing to the completion of our fish landing sites in Dubla and in Biosh, with contracts ready to be signed in 2 weeks' time. Now, I am elated to say that the fisher folk in my constituency will be getting a lift ahead of the completion of the airport, which will therefore well position them to gain the maximum benefit that will come with the completion of the airport and the other major capital projects that I have just outlined, such as the marina. Now, on behalf of my constituents, I want to say thank you to Honorable Roland Roy and Honorable Julian Defoe for putting my constituency high on your chart. We appreciate it, we love you, and we are eagerly anticipating these much needed projects. So, Mr. Speaker, the international airport will take care of a matter of access into the country. We all know that
30 more
Dominica,
minutes. 3-0.
okay, oh, 3-0. I thought your clock faster than mine, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the airport will take care of the matter of access. Now, we all know that Dominica is easily one of the most beautiful islands in the world. But we also must appreciate the need to further develop the tourism infrastructure to obtain the maximum benefit from the airport. And so, Mr. Speaker, we are currently in the process of constructing a range of supporting infrastructure that will come alongside the airport. And the first one we have to speak about is the cable car. Now, Mr. Speaker, the cable car will be the longest cable car in the world. And it's going to take our visitors to the second largest boiling lake in the world. Now, Mr. Speaker, the hike to the boiling lake is a great one. Okay, one of the most fulfilling hikes one can take, and itself, it attracts numerous adventure tourists to the island. Dominica is known and loved for its hiking opportunities, and we are not looking to change that. In this budget address, our Honorable Minister of Finance outlined the government's plan to fix up 5 or 6 of our hiking trails, Mr. Speaker. So we're not looking to get rid of the hiking, but we must appreciate the fact that if a senior couple comes in on a cruise ship, sitting on the bayfront, despite the fact that they would love to see the boiling lake, we cannot expect them to hike to the boiling lake in their one little day. But these are people that really want to see our natural sites, and they have good money in their pockets that they want to spend. Now, that is where the cable car will create that incremental value, because it will take all those people that otherwise, despite their desire, would not have been able to get to that site. It will help them get to it. Now, me, myself, Mr. Speaker, I finish hike to the boiling lake. I definitely will be one of those taking the cable car to the boiling lake. Now, Mr. Speaker, another important major infrastructure that is coming in is the cruise village. Now, the cruise village, what I love about the cruise village, Mr. Speaker, is that it's going to be constructed through direct foreign investment. The government will not be spending a single dollar for the construction of the cruise village. This means that we are not adding to the debt burden. We're not leaving a bigger loan for our children and for our future generations to pay. But yet, we as a country and our future generations, will benefit from the tax revenue and from the jobs that will be created from that cruise village, Mr. Speaker. People in these larger countries can now plan the cruise around coming to Dominica, because they can easily get to our natural sites. We have cable car, we have marinas, we have all different type of things happening, and so on. So coming to Dominica will be a box that they need to check, Mr. Speaker, and they will come in and they will get off the boat and they will spend good money on our country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the marina in Portsmouth is another major important capital project that is now underway. This marina, as well as the others just mentioned, will provide so many opportunities for small business growth and development. And it gives me goosebumps. I have goosebumps as the minister with responsibility for small business to see what is coming on the horizon for small business, because there's going to be a bloom, Mr. Speaker, boom in small business. Mr. Speaker, at the Marina, we're going to have world-class cafes. I mean, how many of you have gone to a modern marina? Huh? Modern cafes, restaurants, souvenirs and gift shops, fishing supplies, boat repairs and maintenance, clubs, to name a few, Mr. Speaker. We are creating opportunities for people like they have never been before, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, whilst we admit that these wonderful projects just mentioned that are being constructed primarily towards enhancing our tourism sector, as I just said, we that live here on the island ourselves waiting for those things. Mr. Speaker, are you sure you will not walk to the bowling lake? I know you're waiting for the cable car. No, Mr. Speaker, we know that the town of Portsmouth was recently identified as the third most beautiful city in the world by Architectural Digest. Now, we're not talking about the third most beautiful in the Caribbean. We know we are the only one listed in the Caribbean on that list. We are the third most beautiful in the world. I mean, and that says a lot. That says a lot. Okay? Now, the beauty of the town is one of the main things that make it so attractive to our guests. That is why we have all those five-star hotels building in the area. That is where we're hosting the Jazz and Creole. And that is where we're doing these new sporting facilities. We will put golf courses. We will do all kind of things we do in Portsmouth because Portsmouth pretty. Minister, I am Portsmouth's neighbor, so I can pick it up. No, Mr. Speaker, we cannot have our visitors entering on our nice big new international airport, go into the third most beautiful city in the world. By the time we finish with all what we're doing, it will be the second or the first. But then we have to have them driving on those little winding, dangerous roads that have to pass in a river in Hampstead Estate and those type of things, you know. So something has to be done. We need to give the visitors an overall pleasant experience. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, on his most recent trip to China, our honorable Prime Minister again negotiated the deal of a lifetime. The Chinese, our friends, the Chinese government has agreed to construct, renovate and construct the highway from the airport directly into Portsmouth, Mr. Speaker. Now, that is a project that will entail about 30, near 30 bridges, and it will have dozens of culverts and crossings. So we can easily see how that project will cost in excess of $200 million. I mean, repairing the Loubier to Granby Road, costing $172 million. So that we're talking about there will probably easily double that. Yeah, I said Granby just for it too. Okay. So, obviously, Mr. Speaker, constructing all those highways, Loubier to Granby, and definitely the airport to Portsmouth. Again, one of the things we have preached in this parliament from day one is jobs. So all those projects, again, will create jobs for our people. Even right now, with Tranquility Building right next to me, you can't walk call you and see people sitting there unemployed. Grant will tell you, there was nobody in Wesley by the road again, the block's empty. So already, those projects creating jobs like peace, Mr. Speaker. Now, before I continue, Mr. Speaker, as I said, the Prime Minister negotiated the construction of that new road on his last visit to China. So I must once again recognize and say thanks to the People's Republic of China for stepping forward as a true friend to Dominica. Now, they always show up when we need them, Mr. Speaker, and they do so with such grace and humility. We are indeed honored by this cherished relationship, and our friends should know that we will continue to stand with them in solidarity on all major international issues, such as the One China policy. Now, Mr. Speaker, today I almost feel cheated that I am only afforded 1 hour for this presentation. Whilst we may be favored with the allocation of time, additional time from our dear colleagues and so on, I am mindful to keep this presentation, within reasonable time. But I say, Mr. Speaker, because, I say that because this budget, it has so much in it. It has so much for us that we can discuss. You know, so many things happening. You're feeling like you're a child in a big candy store, but you only have 25 cents. You know, where do you spend that 25 cents? But, you know, we'll try our best, Mr. Speaker. In addition to those projects that are mainly affecting the tourism sector, one can discuss the many developments and investments taking place in agriculture. You know, the opening of the tissue culture at the 1 mile, the tissue culture lab at the 1 mile comes to mind. The investment being made to repair and improve the abattoir is another major noteworthy project. We can discuss the investments and strides being made in hydroponics. We can speak of the creation of the spillway reserve, and I picking up my visor because they give me my fish land inside. The creation of the spillway reserve and the benefits that will be received. Now we can discuss the investments in education. We have right now the construction of 6 schools ongoing, and again funded and with the support of the People's Republic of China. And included in that 6 schools will be the Technical Center of Excellence, and that is alongside the improvements and the expansion of the Dominica Grammar School. So the 1 hour, if we have to go into details of all the things, the 1 hour obviously is not enough. But Mr. Speaker, importantly, this year's budget includes $400,000 for the rehabilitation of playing fields. And I am happy to report to my constituents that the improvements to our sporting facilities are included in this amount. I was assured by the Honorable Judge that I am being taken care of. But Mr. Speaker, before I proceed, please allow me to express my most sincere gratitude to the government of Dominica, and especially to our Prime Minister for approving and delivering an out-of-budget $30,000 support to the Dublin football team to assist with the overseas participation in the Caribbean Football Union Club Shield competition. And that competition is now taking place in Curacao, and I want to thank the Minister of Sports, Oscar George, for his efforts in assisting me secure that assistance. Now, Mr. Speaker, the magnitude of that support is by no means lost on this PAL rep and the people of Dublin. We recognize that these are trying economic times the world over. Whilst the inflation rate is decreasing, the inflation prices have cemented. It is clear that a dollar today will not do as much as a dollar before COVID-19 and before the European and the Middle East wars. Despite this, we are presently engaged in capital projects of an unprecedented scale here in Dominica. We have expensive projects happening, and we have continued to spend large amounts maintaining our healthcare system. So $40,000 is no small amount when considering this environment in which it was given. So we are truly deeply appreciative of this kind gesture from our Honorable Prime Minister and the government of Dominica. And I'm excited to report to this Honorable House that our team is doing great. So far, we have won our first 2 matches, scoring a total of 5 goals and conceded none. Mr. Speaker, you are a football alumni, so you understand our joy. Our guys are representing us well. They are showing dignity. They are showing quality and skill on the playing field, befitting their status as the reigning champions of the Dominica Football Association Premier League. Now, Mr. Speaker, our guys are being true ambassadors for our country and the absolute pride and joy of the Dublin community. A fun fact is that on that team, we have 10 national players. 10 national players on just one team. I don't know, but I mean, so when you see the Dublin football team step on a field, you see in Dominica stepping on the field. You understand? I mean, I don't know, but I have not heard of any other team having 11 or even 10. So we greater Dublin run football in Dominica. I need to correct you. So, you know, I have to say, Mr. Speaker, that in Dublin, the young boys do not have to look far for their heroes. They don't care about outside people, and they're looking for people to look up to, because the people they're looking up to, they live in with and among them. They're looking up to the players on that football team. Okay? And You know, the men on the football and on that football team, they are the absolute best role models, and they are all what we can hope for. What we want to see our young men growing into. They are not involved in drugs and other destructive behavior, and they are leading the way, setting a very positive example for young men and boys coming up. It is therefore fitting as well, Mr. Speaker, that in this budget the government has committed to the completion of the Dubla Pavilion and also to assist with the field irrigation issues. Now, the completion of this pavilion is eagerly anticipated, Mr. Speaker, and I expect that the Honorable Judge will make it happen tooth sweet. Now, in Qualiho, now we are committed to repairing the basketball court and resurfacing the playing field. And in Biosh, the government is committed to repairing the half court that's there. And not only will we repair the facility for sports, but life, we will give life to this activity and the community, because that is the same area that is used for entertainment and other activities such as the Each Fish Day and the Fish Night in Biosh. And we're inviting everyone to come down to Biosh in November for another wonderful Eat Fish Day. Now, whilst we're in Biosh, let me also assure the people of Biosh that the long-awaited solution to the septic issue is at hand. We are now actively fine-tuning our solution, and we expect to undertake works on this over the coming weeks and months. Truly, Mr. Speaker, it appears that the good Lord is favoring us in the Collier constituency this year. Now, Mr. On the issue of climate change, we have a very pressing issue in my constituency. Admittedly, this is not only a local issue or even a national issue, it's an international issue, and it's the issue of climate change. We continue to grapple with its impacts, Mr. Speaker. Now, Dr. Henderson expertly in his presentation articulated the financial impact of us having to deal with all those natural disasters and the impacts of climate change. But I want to present the real on-the-ground facts, Mr. Speaker. In this year, what we saw was Hurricane Beryl being formed in June, and that is the earliest onset of a Category 4 hurricane on record, Mr. Speaker. Now, please allow me, Mr. Speaker, to empathize with our friends and our comrades in Grenada and St. Vincent. We understand, we in Dominica, we know all too well the despair that they might be feeling at seeing such destruction of their beautiful country. But, Mr. Speaker, whilst bearing spared us in the brunt of its impact, we were not left unscathed. Because in my constituency alone, we had 21 homes breached by high sea tides during the passage of Hurricane Beryl, with a higher concentration in the village of Dubla, but also in Biosh and in Colliho. Now, Mr. Speaker, in my short time as PAL rep, the incidence of the sea coming into people's home is becoming an all too familiar occurrence, and something has to be done. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to report to my constituents, especially those that have been regularly impacted by the high seas, that your PAL rep, that your Prime Minister and your government has taken notice, and we are committed to addressing the issue immediately. The need to relocate our people who live in harm's way, being subjected to the constant disruptions of their lives, is unacceptable. I give my commitment to you, my people, that we are treating this as a matter of urgency, and we fully expect the commencement of construction for your new homes to begin within this fiscal period. We have heard your cries. We feel your pain. We know that your request is just, and so we empathize with you, and we are committed to doing right by you. And we all heard the Honorable Melissa Skerritt mention Colliho when she spoke about upcoming housing projects. So I have support from the highest levels, Mr. Speaker. We also have to grapple with the impacts of climate change for those residing near our rivers in Colliho, Mr. Speaker. In Colliho, we're in a constant battle with the river. We live in constant fear from flooding. Thus, we have been blessed to see phase 1 of the river wall, completed. However, we recognize that more needs to be done. Mr. Speaker, I again say thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister for negotiating the financing of the completion of the river wall in Koryo on his last trip to China. And I give the people of Koryo the assurance that the wall is coming. We will have our river wall, and our homes, our churches, our schools, our businesses will be protected. Now, let us get back to the youth of the country. And I trust that the senator is paying attention. Mr. Speaker, I remain convinced that every young person in this country should be a strong total supporter of this Dominican Labour Party government. Now that fact, right, the fact is that any young person criticizing the government for not doing enough for the youth, or any senator criticizing the government for not doing for the youth, right, would have been born either just before or while the government has been in power. And therefore, they were not alive, or their head was in the sand for them to not to know what was happening before this government took office, Mr. Speaker. And so they cannot appreciate how far we have come because they don't well understand what was there before, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the young academics and architects and engineers criticizing the government are persons that were educated based on the policies that this government put in place. 30 years ago, many of them would not have even grown up to be academics. Because back then, regardless of how bright you were, attending high school was not assured. Mr. Speaker, many of us know persons that passed their common entrance multiple times, but were never able to get to high school. And that is simply because their parents could not afford to send them to high school.
Yeah, 10 more minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Honorable Minister be given an additional 10 more minutes to complete his wonderful presentation.
Motion is
You second it, Honorable?
seconded, Mr. Speaker.
Nice, okay. It has been moved and seconded that the Honorable Minister be given an additional 10 minutes. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. So, Honorable Minister, you are given an additional 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Speaker, this guy is blessed with golden spoon, so they don't know what poor people like me talking about. You understand? Them fellas they do struggle. So I talking now for the people that struggle. You understand? So at this juncture, them people that born with golden spoons, please stay quiet. Now, Mr. Speaker, can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, passing the common entrance along with your friends, feeling that initial elation and joy of hearing the news and celebrating your success? Then when you go home and the dust settles, your parents tell you cannot go because we cannot afford. And that is not even the worst part of it. The next year you have to go back and do it all over again. You have to go back and write the common entrance. You have to pass again, and you probably pass it better than all the others. And again, you have to go back home and you still have to be told, you can't go because we cannot afford to send you. That is not just difficult to understand. That is torture. That is torture for a little soul, Mr. Speaker. And this is what our Prime Minister, these are the kind of things that our Prime Minister met. This is what he saw. And this is why he first of all, he did universal secondary education for everybody. Okay? Then, so he get rid of first of all, the need for you to have to pass the common entrance to be able to go to high school, because we understand that some people, they bloom late. So even if you did not pass the common entrance, maybe you were more busy driving your SEC at the time, but that doesn't mean you don't have the potential and you don't have the ability to be great. Now, as we were saying, Mr. Speaker, now, that would have been damaging to anybody. Okay, it would be like torture and it would break anybody's heart. No, we not only, no, the impact of that, that is not just a loss to the individual, but that was a loss to our country as a whole. We have lost doctors, teachers, lawyers, politicians, that never worked because they could not attend high school, simply because they could not afford to do so. Now, understanding this, Mr. Speaker, should highlight the significance of of what our youth today are taking for granted. First, universal education was created, and there I now see universal tertiary education, as well as the various school programs, free transportation, free uniforms, free textbooks, free school supplies, free tuition, all that. Basically, Mr. Speaker, the government, through the programs that this Prime Minister has initiated, is doing everything to ensure that our students are well educated. They are given the opportunity. We're feeding them, we're clothing them, we're transporting them, we're giving them their books. We're doing everything we need to do to make sure that they get the education that they need to succeed in life. And beyond that, the Prime Minister took it another level. Years ago, the Prime Minister said, he put a policy in place that every household, on average, every household in this country will have a graduate, a university graduate, Mr. Speaker. And right now, Mr. Speaker, if you go outside there and you just send a stone anywhere in Dominica, you're going to hit somebody with a degree. We don't send in stones, but if you had to do it, you're going to hit somebody with a degree. Because everybody have a degree in this country, Mr. Speaker. And the government did it. The government did it by first providing scholarships for persons attending overseas university. But we also did it by working with our friends, such as the People's Republic of China, Cuba, and Morocco. So everybody, including myself, got the opportunity to attend university because of the culture that was created by this government, by this Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker. You know, I do not like to speak about myself that much, Mr. Speaker. But as I was telling the senator, I am one of those persons that grew up with nothing. Okay? I didn't have much opportunities in life. But then because of the same government's policy, I was able to stay in Dominica and graduate university. I got my degree, first class honors, banking and finance. Staying in Dominica, I was able to complete the CPA. I am now a chartered CPA, Mr. Speaker, chartered accountant, Mr. Speaker. I have started from below zero, and I have risen through the business world in the banking sector primarily. And now I'm a member of this honorable house. I'm a minister of government. And that is a boy that came from nothing, with nobody, only the economic environment, the system that this government has created. Now I can say to you, I did it. And I did it with very little to no help. So when Paris, the honorable senator, want to sit down there and criticize this government and this environment for not creating opportunities for the youth, I don't know which country he's living in. I don't know where he's going with that. Because I was not given any special opportunity. Everything people like me do is available for everybody else to do, Mr. Speaker. I didn't have a golden spoon. My father didn't have hundreds of trucks and construction companies, okay, to give me startup.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I notice you being very tolerant.
No, but
gentleman-
two cannot be standing.
The gentleman,
But Honorable Senator, I'm going to ask the minister to proceed because
Mr.
this is minor. Honorable,
you can't be
Honorable
addressing me,
Minister,
you have to address
proceed.
you. It's not a
Proceed.
personal thing, you have to address you.
No. Proceed. Take your seat, Honorable Senator.
It's not a personal
Proceed.
thing, it's you.
Proceed.
No, Mr. Speaker, I mean, when you're in this honorable house, Mr. Speaker, if you give in fire, you have to have a little thickness on your skin. You have to take something. You understand? If you can't take, don't give. You know what I mean? Or you're giving people on Marboy and everywhere else, or you can't take a little knock on this shoulder. No. No. Now, Mr. Speaker, all what I was just speaking about there, that is with respect to education. Just education alone we talk about there. We know that.
Yes, Honorable Minister, stay focused and deliver.
This government has also made it so that every person under 18 will have access, full access to medical treatment at any government facility in this country, Mr. Speaker. So if you're under 18 and you get sick, you can get treated at any government facility for free. That did not exist before the Prime Minister implemented that policy, Mr. Speaker. The Dominica Youth Business Trust was created in 2004 by this Dominica Labour Party government, Mr. Speaker, and where we provide training, hand-holding support, and grants, free money to young entrepreneurs looking to start or to build their businesses, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and once again, this Dominica Labour Party government is stepping up to bat for the youth of this country. Thanks to the generosity of the People's Republic of China, we are now in the process of the 6 schools, as I was saying already. And included in that 6 school is the Technical Center for Excellence, where we will provide opportunities for learning that are currently unavailable anywhere on the island or even in the region. But these skills is what we will need for this new dynamic Dominica that we are building, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are ensuring that the youth will have every opportunity to succeed in a big way in this, our new Dominica. So generally, when I hear those persons who came from poor families sitting in their AC offices with their university degrees, crying down the government, Mr. Speaker, it really boiling me inside, you know, because as I was saying, the opportunities are there. They took it. You know, those that sit down in there, they took it. They benefited from it. And then they're crying down the same system that bring them to where they are. Mr. Speaker, gratitude. I'm sure, I don't know exactly which verse, but I'm sure the Bible says you have to be grateful. So to the young persons in Dominica,
You have 10 more minutes. You no need to rush. You have time.
That will be fine, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, so to the young persons, I want to let them know that they need to get all the facts before they take on a side of an argument. Especially when the one you might be siding against might be the very one that has given you everything that it needed to support you. The one that has been responsible for helping you to get to where you are. Do not get sidetracked, Mr. Speaker. Tell the young people, do not get sidetracked by those golden spoon babies or by those people that have their personal little vendettas. People that didn't get a little side thing they wanted. They didn't get an extra thing that would have deprived the masses. So now they vex. Their personal issues, they're venting, but they're making people believe that there is a problem in the system. That is their personal problem. You understand? Young people get to know the facts before you take on the side of the story and understand that a lot of these things they might not stay, most likely will not stay if this government is not in office. You believe in the opposition or any other party will come here and commit to paying free tuition at state college, $2.6 million every month, and the teacher's not even really teaching. But that is something we'll get to. The government is paying $2.6 million to the state college every year to make sure that our students get educated. We're giving, Mr. Speaker, what this Labour Party government doing is just unheard of. Anyway, as I conclude, Mr. Speaker, I ask all the supporters of this government to hold strong, keep the faith. We are on the verge of fulfilling what we have only dreamed of for decades in this country. Appreciate what you have. Appreciate that you have a government and a leader that cares about your well-being like you could never imagine. Everything that we do for you, for your benefit. You have held on strong for so long, and your just rewards are at hand. The small business, you are in good hands. You are in good hands with this Minister of State. You are in good hands with the Senior Minister Blanchard. You are in good hands with our Prime Minister. You are in good hands with this government. The Corleo constituency, you are in good hands with this Rep. You are in good hands with this Prime Minister. Don't get sidetracked and begin to doubt what you already know, that this Dominica Labour Party government is the only one that can do it. The only one that can make things happen for you. Do you truly believe that there is anyone else out there that will be able to bring housing solutions to you, to commit to relocating entire villages and families that are being negatively impacted by climate change? Do you really see any other government maintaining the social programs to which you have become so accustomed? Think of our children, think of our seniors, and trust that they are safe only with this government in charge. Trust that the capital projects that we are now so aggressively pursuing will bring the economic benefits, the jobs, the financial resources that we need to take care of ourselves and our families, that will enable us to live full and happy lives. I say keep the faith, stick with the Dominica Labour Party government, for we are the best choice, for we are the only choice. I say thank you, Mr. Speaker.